being in this space actually is becoming the specialty. Spending time in e-commerce, understanding marketing as a whole, whether the medium is going to change, but the high level understanding is where we're seeing a lot of value. Brands should be talking to their customers as much as their customers are willing to talk to them.
Email and SMS marketing automation. Now, is it the sexiest topic? We think so, but everyone might not agree. But if done right, is it one of the best ways to make more money for your store? 100% yes. It's one of the most effective ways to become more profitable on a daily basis. And that's why Ecom Growers is offering to build out your backend email and SMS automations for free until you start making more money from them. Trusted by over 100 7- and 8-figure brands, Ecom Growers has developed a simple yet effective system to turn more of your traffic into buying customers. And they're willing to build it out at no cost until they start producing more revenue for you. It's literally a risk-free investment. So head over to ecomgrowers.com, link in the description below, and schedule a call to reserve your spot before they fill up. Welcome to another episode of the Messenger Mastermind podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Horowitz, and today we are joined by another incredible guest, someone who's going to have a lot of really interesting perspectives. I feel like we've talked, even though this is the first time we're actually talking on the phone a lot through LinkedIn and Twitter and a bunch of places. So I'm really excited to have Aaron Spivak, the co-founder of Hush Blankets, on the podcast. Aaron, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to be here. A long time in the making.
Yeah, definitely. Really excited to have you on. I feel like I definitely had to follow up with you. I know you've had a lot going on in the past 12 months. So really excited we could finally do this. So for anyone who isn't familiar with you or what you're currently doing, do you mind just quickly giving us the quick, how did you get into this crazy game of e-com?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the sprinted version of it was my co-founder and I, just became friends back in 2016, 17. And he had a software company, and I had actually a retail juice shop with a couple locations, and I really wanted to sell online. And through our friendship, he's kind of inspired me, and just kind of entered the e-commerce space doing that, like local delivery, and just seeing the power of people actually willing to purchase online without having that face-to-face interaction. Fast forward to 2017, towards the end, he reminded me of this time where he was at a camp with children with special needs. And he would go to this stimulation room where they had this incredible weighted device. It was kind of like a pad. It was a little bit heavy, and he would use it to sleep. And he texted me, he's like, wouldn't it be amazing if, we can create one for adults? Why is it only for children? And then we did some research and realized there actually was some weighted blankets out there on the internet. And we're like, oh, I guess people are already doing it. So we ordered all of them, and we're like, worst case, we can return them or keep them. And we realized that all of them were just this big beanbag, a big weighted beanbag with these plastic pellets that sound like a rain stick. I couldn't wash them. They didn't cover my toes. And right at that moment, we knew there was an opportunity to create a premium weighted blanket, because the idea of weighted therapy is in high demand, but no one actually innovated and iterated on the fact that we can make this replace the duvet. And we launched in 2018, whipped up a website on a Shopify free theme. We never wanted to drop ship, so we spent all the money we had on getting our samples and bringing the stock in so we can offer that service to people. And, we sold out month over month for our entire year, and have been selling out for the last 4 years. And I believe this March 2022, crossing my fingers, will be the first time we'll be fully in stock on everything, and hopefully keep it shipping fast and efficiently.
Yeah, well, definitely good problems to have. I feel like there's plenty of brands who are very jealous of that and would like to be selling out every month over month. It's so interesting. And I feel like there's a couple of people I've talked to who went retail first and jumped into e-com. What were you able to translate from one to the other? Or what were the major lessons that really helped running that retail business that then really translated over to success launching Hush?
Yeah, I think the biggest difficulty is being able to take what you would say to somebody face to face and create an experience where someone would buy without actually talking to them. And I know fast forward a few years, e-com is trying to find ways to make it as personable as possible. And we're trying to get on the phone and create these opportunities like ghost commerce and stuff like that. But, for me, the biggest difficulty was someone would walk into our stores and we would sell packages and juice cleanses and all this stuff. And I'd be able to have like a 5-minute conversation, and they would feel the energy, and they would, this guy believes in the product. There's all of that goes into it. And they'd be sold. As opposed to online, not only do they have every other competitor literally 1 inch below you, they don't have the opportunity to speak to someone and understand right away, at least at first glance, their ecosystem and the brand and who's behind it. So finding ways to do that online was really exciting and kind of like unique. And then once it clicked, it was kind of like a euphoria. It's like, wait a second, you can do this at scale, because in person you can do one at a time, but online you can do it all the time and as many people as possible. So it was a really unique, I guess, circumstance, but it was exciting to do. And then once it hit off, it's like kind of takes the energy away from wanting to do the face-to-face.
Yeah, definitely. And how would you say that it has evolved or changed with scale? Like, I'm sure in the early days you probably could talk to customers one-on-one or like through chat, but now at current scale, like, how do you guys think about maintaining that type of branding and messaging, but just at a much, much larger volume?
Honestly, it's the hardest thing to do. I think one of the things that made us special and that makes us special is our community, and the fact that we're so intertwined with our customers, right? And figuring out new ways we can serve them, delivering, above expectations every single time. I mean, those are the goals that we want to hit. When Leo and I first started, obviously we wore every single hat, but I would personally call every abandoned cart. I'd be like, hey, like, why didn't you buy? And sometimes it'd be like, stop calling my wife, you weirdo. And sometimes it would be, like really good information where, it was, hey, I don't really understand. I don't know what size is right for me. I don't understand, how to wash it. And you start to you build these relationships and you solve these problems for people. And then you go and you do it at scale, and you do it on the site. But for us, it's really been about developing an ecosystem where we can deliver that level of service and expectation, but at scale. But the solution hasn't been super simple. I mean, we've got sales teams now that follow up with all clients and potential clients. Our support team is pretty vast. We offer support from 8 a.m. till 12 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. We're not at that like perfect response rate of like a minute or less yet, but I think we're getting closer. We're just like below a couple hours now. Our goal is to build out an experience where it feels like you're face-to-face and you're one-on-one, but it's still transacting, it's still happening online and at scale.
Yeah, definitely. I find it so interesting that you literally called abandoned carts, and I feel like the worst case scenario is somebody like, why are you calling me? This is terrible. Like what everybody fears. But I find every early stage team that does that, there's so many insights and there's so many things that you pick up so early that is what really gives you the like education, learning infrastructure to do that at scale effectively and pass that on to. I'm sure now you have multiple teams that are managing that throughout the different stages of the life cycle. So how have you seen the team change? Like early days, I'm sure it was you plus Leo or like the co-founding team. How, now that you all have exited, like how have you guys how have you guys thought about the different stages and what the different teams are at those different stages?
Yeah, I think at first, like we just wanted to Superman it, right? So we just try to do everything. And then initially you outsource what you're not good at right away. We couldn't afford to hire full-time in-house. We didn't believe the work was full-time anyways. So we've initially started with agencies. So we had a good idea how ads work. We knew what we wanted it to look like. We knew what the funnel needed to be, but we were more proficient and excited to be on the back end on email and website and pop-up as opposed to deploying the ad. So we would hire agencies for that. And then we would do the same for creative. So we had a good idea of what we wanted for creative, but actually the first ever creative we shot, and we're like, okay, we're not good at this. So we went and hired. And then as that scales, and okay, now, our ads our agencies charging much more because our ads have scaled and they need to dedicate more work hours. It reaches a certain point where like, okay, perfect. Now I can either pay the same amount of money and get somebody in-house, or in some cases pay less, and bring them in-house and start to develop the internal team, which has been a huge, huge move for us because a lot of e-commerce brands tend to want to outsource absolutely everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in our case, in our big mission of getting into 1 million beds, we wanted to continue to scale. So building a really cool team of people who are excited to learn and grow within their role has been exciting. And we did the same thing. We would outsource graphic design to the point where the outsourced graphic designer is like, this is too much. And we would then hire and bring it in-house. Leo and I are still in the trenches. I love to keep my ears to the ground at all times. So I'm still watching Hotjars. I'm still popping on and chatting with customers. I'm in our Facebook community. I'm responding to emails from time to time. I love to know what our customers are saying and feeling. I feel like there was probably a few moments throughout the last 4 years where we disconnected, and it's not who we are and where we want to be. So I would rather spend an hour on support, reading emails, reading responses, and listening to customers than staring at our ad dashboard for an hour. I'll probably learn more from speaking to customers.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that kind of like classic old school retail, like have that connection, talk to them, have those conversations. So, I feel like you brought up the existential challenge that every business that, once they hit some moderate sense of success and scale, a couple $100,000 in sales through well into 8-9 figures of, do we insource, do we outsource? What were those like either breakpoints or sizes of the business where you were going from one side of the pendulum to the other? Like, where did you see the swings happen? Because I feel like everybody has this misconception that it's one or the other and it's a permanent decision. And every successful company I've seen outsources at some point, insources at other points, and just really is flexible about how they do it.
Yeah, it also depends on the amount of resources you're willing to take. Like, there's a risk when you go in-house because what happens if that person quits, right? And now you have a huge hole to fill, and really important roles can be detrimental, right? Even a few weeks to fill the role can be difficult and scary. So, defaulting to agency is always safer because the agency isn't going to quit. They need you. So it's a much safer play and quicker. It's much easier and faster to hire an agency than it is to bring somebody in-house. But for us, in terms of building community, there's a look and there's a feel to the brand, and unless you're in it every day and you're part of our culture and you're sleeping and you're in the trenches with us, it's very difficult to recreate that feel. And whatever it is, whether it be email or SMS, wouldn't really matter. So it's probably one of the most difficult things to do right now in e-commerce, I would say, is to build an internal team. So many generalists that are really good at a lot of different things. I can do email, I can do your design, I can do ads too. I'm really good at Amazon as well, and probably are, because there's been so much need for generalists for the last 5 years, but much more difficult now to find specialists who have spent 4 or 5 years in just one aspect of e-commerce. More common in email, I find. But Klaviyo, it's ever changing. It's constantly updating. Tough to be a specialist in only that. And then SMS, just, everyone that was doing emails for the last few years now says they can do SMS, but SMS is relatively new. You're 24 months in, 36 at best. So saying you're a specialist means you probably did the post-skip verification course or whatever. So it's tough to find real specialists. But what we are finding and what I am noticing is that being in this space actually is becoming the specialty. Spending time in e-commerce, understanding marketing as a whole, whether the medium is going to change, but the high level understanding is where we're seeing a lot of value. And when we bring someone on the team like we have in the past, and we continue to bring on that just gets it and can learn everyone can learn the technicalities of how to work within a software.
And we all did too.
Yeah, exactly. Once you learn the software, you just apply what you know from a marketing standpoint. And we're finding that those who just get it, the marketing, the technicalities will come, and when they mesh, it can be really powerful for a brand.
Yeah, definitely. So, I I think we're in the great hiring wars, and I think everybody is facing this challenge, and probably it's just such a boom, and there's so much now volume of stores in the just ecosystem is in general that must be a great time for an agency, but it is really tough to bring that person in house. Like, how do you think about we have to hire that perfect person that has that 4 to 5 years of experience and can just step in and like gets the team versus growing maybe some of those generalists where it's like, hey, you could do these 4 things. We really want you to just focus on this, and then just how do you think about that? And has it worked at all?
Yeah, like we've historically always hired generalists. Like some of our best staff have come in doing one thing, and 3 years later, what they're doing now is something completely different. And they find, what they really love to do, and they just kill it. So we've been fortunate to hire very good generalists that come in, and a good thing about being a generalist in some cases is the appetite to be involved in other aspects of the business too. So instead of saying, I only want to do Facebook ads, for example, it's, okay, I really want to do Facebook ads, but I'm interested in how, Google is affected by that in terms of its organic and SEO. And I want to see how my ads are, performing on social or email or et cetera. I want to see how I can improve the website from a CRO perspective. That would probably help my ads too. So sometimes being a generalist or having a background in that is really powerful because, I'm not so honed in on my own dashboard, whatever it is. I'm interested in the full picture. And the full picture sometimes is a lot more simplified when you take a step back, as opposed to if you're a Facebook agency for it, like right now, you're talking about whatever, iOS, you're freaking out because your dashboard sucks. But if you're able to take a step back and be a generalist for a second and understand the full funnel, you can actually see your true data and come all the way back, which is why we're looking into softwares like Docity, because we want to be able to take steps back and say, okay, wait a second, let's look at the full picture and see some areas that we want to lean into more. So being a generalist sometimes helps, but as we scale, specialties are important. And we're in that stage now where we want to plug and play some really important people.
Yeah, definitely. And I really feel like it's so hard because the business is so fluid, where in a 6-month period, it could be like, this is the absolute critical thing. And then it gets to that place where somebody could run it and it doesn't need that specialist anymore. And you've kind of always got to toe that fine line of picking the two. So actually, I have one idea that I've been pitching people for years and nobody's taken me up on this yet, but I think it's a good idea. I think there's going to be a massive hiring of failed dropshippers, or like people who just don't want to do dropshippers anymore. Like they got to a couple $100,000 in sales. They realized there was no actual money in it, but they can set up a Shopify theme. They can build a funnel. Like they can do the ops and the inventory management. And I think there's no school for e-com, but to me, that's like the best thing of that come out of the gladiatorial environment that is dropshipping. Like those people have incredible talents that I think if you do plug them into that more of the strategic role and be like, this is your only focus for the next, whatever it is, 6 months, 12 months, I think they really could accelerate. So I don't know. I've been pitching that for a couple of years. Nobody's done it yet, but I think that's where I would start looking for talent.
We've got some people on our team that are maybe not failed drop shippers, but it wasn't going anywhere, or they didn't see the scale in it. And we definitely have that. We definitely 100% have that. I don't know if, a lot of people started drop shipping for the wrong reasons. So it really depends on why or how their drop shipping was set up. Drop shipping holistically is a massive business. Like the idea of selling someone else's product on your website is, what massive retailers are doing right now.
I was about to say, it's every retail website.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like holistically, it's a great idea because you're selling products that's supposed to have demand and you just show up for it in your own unique way. And obviously these retailers are trusted, so people buy there. But that's real drop shipping. The fake drop shipping was going on Alibaba and connecting an app and creating a general store, and some guy on Instagram posted his Rolex and you want one too. So then you start the store and buy his course for $500 and then you're out $500 and your product's never arrived and Shopify bans you. So like that's failed drop shipping in my opinion. So I don't think those people are going to go anywhere, but I do agree, like the ones who really killed it, but realize that it's not where they want to go. Like there's no end game. So they take a step back and like, wait a second, I was really good at doing this part of it. Like I crushed, the website or the CRO or the ads or the product sourcing or whatever. I was really good at that. And then they niche into it and go and find a job in there. We've done that. We've hired people just like that, and it's been incredible. So that's a very smart idea for sure.
Yeah, and that's a much better way to put it. I feel like, so when I was at a brand, we were basically getting screwed over in Facebook and all these other places because failed, like drop shippers would just come in, basically rip off the products that me and my group of like my cohort of other business friends were selling at the time. And it was just like, so it just leaves me a little bit of a bad taste. I also remember I was at a brand where we were like retailed, and I don't remember the exact brand, but they were like, hey, like we'd love to get you EDI and get you on our website. And I was like, well, how does it work? And they're like, we place the orders and you ship it out and carry all the fulfillment. And I was like, this seems very familiar. And it's very funny that that's like taken such a stronghold now. But I guess like where do you see it going from here? Like, do you think you're going to have to just like go and really like acquire talent from the, I see a lot of people go from like L'Oreal or like the big P&G companies and kind of like fall into the darling D2C brands that are growing really quickly in a similar space. Like, do you all think that that's the path forward? Or do you think that there's some other interesting area that like this is going to be the team growth curve for the next part of the business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, everyone, I feel like, is just leaning into whatever they need in that moment, which is what I call short-sighted job hunting. And we've been a victim of that for sure. And it's a big part of our hiring process. It's just trying to vet out, the type of person, right? Is it, I need this job right now, or I want this job right now, or I have a vision for myself in a career and this is a stepping stone. And we love being that. Like, we don't expect anyone to be here for their whole life. We don't even know if we'll be here for our whole life, right? So, but what we do want is, a reason for wanting this role and for seeing this role. And if it's coming in, it's like, hey, I'm going to be your retention master for the next 2 years. And my real goal is to go and do it at X stage or whatever. We're perfectly fine with that. So we'll be a springboard, no problem. But if it's just like, hey, actually, I just want to work from home and, go to Miami and relax for a bit and need a job that's comfortable and easygoing, we're probably not the best fit. So I am noticing, or it's, hey, I just need a lot of money right now. I want to get my money up. I'm going to get the job that pays me the absolute most. And then, we just kind of feel that out. I am finding that those 3 categories are the biggest importance for a lot of like interviews that we're having. And there's companies for all of them. And the options are there. Like, that's why, there's a huge influx of people moving because they're prioritizing themselves, which they should. I see the market drying up a little bit come February and March. I feel like there's a little bit of craze in January for everyone to get their hires in place. But I do think it's going to dry up a little bit. I don't think there's going to be as much movement. I saw like a post today that there was 427,000 job openings or job hires in January when the expectation target was 100,000. So January was a little bit of a crazy frenzy. I think it's going to slow down come March and as we head into the rest of the year. So we'll see. But there's been a lot of movement in the e-commerce space for sure. And we're happy to be benefiting from it. A lot of people want to join a young and crazy, hungry company, but we've also been a victim to it where people steal our talent. So it's all good at the end of the day. I think it always works out. As long as people are prioritizing their happiness and what they want, it usually works out.
Yeah, it's all part of the game. I've been on both sides of hiring a lot in my career, and it kind of shocks me. I'm hiring now also, and it kind of just shocks me. Like, people, I feel like, obviously people who join a company to make money and they like want to have more freedom. But it kind of surprised me now how people just like unabashedly are like, listen, I want to work remote. I don't really like my current job and I want to make more money. And like, I feel like it's always like, duh, yes, you want better benefits. I'm just like shocked at how like people don't care anymore. They're just like, you know what? I'm going to say it. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, no skin off my back. So I guess kind of in that similar vein, is there anything that you're seeing in the industry that you're just like makes you want to pull your hair out, or you're like, come on, people, like we got to stop doing this?
Yeah. I think people are not going to like this, whoever's watching this, but I think my biggest disappointment with e-commerce is that at least at the next level. So I think e-commerce, there was like a drop shipping phase, right? And there was so much wrong with that phase. But everything that was bad about that phase faded out. And it was like, the Ferraris and the Rolexes and the private jets and take my course and all those like scams basically going on and masterminds every weekend run by 19-year-olds. Like it was wild, right? Like the first, like 2016, 17, 18 was just crazy. And then all the way to 21, I would say, it got really refined because big money came into it, COVID, and like real businesses were built in that phase. And I like to think that we're one of them. And then 22, I'm noticing almost a trend backwards where it's been so hard to sell real products. And I respect that because it is hard. Even, 4 years in, we're still hard. We're still hungry. We're still figuring it out. So now everyone's going back into the info products. And for me, that's a little bit scary because it creates this facade of everybody knows everything. And it's happening a lot.
Everybody's crushing it.
Yeah, like everyone's a genius now. But in the last 3 years, everyone was figuring it out. We were kind of all figuring it out together. And I still think that's true. Like, I'll sit here every day and people who message me on LinkedIn and comment, like, we're figuring it out. We're testing a lot. We're very fortunate to have a lot of things working. So we're able to test and learn and refine. And like, it's never a perfect system, but that's the beauty of business. And I get a little bit disappointed when it's like, here's the answer. And we saw a lot of that, like iOS 14, like everyone had the answer. I think looking back, nobody has the answer, which was my answer when I was asked, hey, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know, we're figuring it out. So
hoping Facebook will figure it out also.
yeah, and most likely not, right?
Yeah, probably not.
You see like Snapchat is figuring it out, which is really unique, right? So it's like, whoa, these guys all of a sudden know what they're doing. So it's all a learning process, right? And that's the only thing I don't like about the space, but I will say in my prediction for 2022 is the middle to second half of the year, that will stop. People the noise will end. People will drown out, and it will happen much faster. It won't be a 3-year phase of info products. The info products will come from the people who with failed really good brands that just couldn't stay with this, iOS crushed you or whatever, and then that will change issues. Yeah,
I'm totally aligned on that. My big prediction for the year is we're going to just see a real thinning of the herd, just because of all the aggregators, the supply chain issues, the advertise, like the rising CAC. Like a lot of people are going to be naked when the tide rolls out. So I also really think the other interesting part there is I actually think it's just moving to Web3, like all the DeFi people and all of that, the courses and the YouTube videos. It's just like, oh my God, it's 2018 just over there now. But I know you're incredibly busy. So I want to ask you a couple of questions I'd like to ask everybody before we wrap up. First question is, what's one piece of content that you would recommend everybody listening consume? The only rule is it can't be your own.
That's a good question. What's one piece of content? Depends. If you're in e-commerce or you're starting up, actually a good friend of mine, Chris Mead, has an amazing newsletter that I enjoy reading. So I would sign up for that. He's a pretty established brand and gives away everything. So always fun to see what's going on there. And that's a real content from someone who's actually doing it day to day. So I always appreciate people who are willing to to show that.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I remember him sharing their literal like influencer landing page on the website. And like most of the time people anonymize that stuff. And it's cool that he's willing, we had him on a couple of years ago. It's cool he's willing to share it of like, this is the thing that we use. Next question for you. If you had to go back to Aaron, who is just starting out Hush Blankets, what's one lesson that if you had to do it all over again a second time, you'd make sure that you got it perfect this time?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I would order more inventory. I would take loans. We bootstrap the entire business. Never took loans, never sold equity. Every dollar we made, we put it back in. But looking back, I would take loans during periods of times that I knew we needed it. Whatever the interest rate is, the 4-6% or whatever, just to satisfy the customer's need. I would do that without fear.
Cool. Okay. You're interviewing Aaron. You're in my seat. What should we have talked about today? What did I miss?
I don't know.
I mean, nothing is an acceptable answer. I'd like to think I did a good job.
I would say it would probably be a full conversation, but about the word community and everyone using it now as the scapegoat or as if it's something new. But community's always been the most powerful tool. I mean, I think it was disguised as referral marketing or peer-to-peer marketing back in the day, but we've all been loyal to brands our entire life for many, many reasons. And a lot of it had to do with the way we connected with them on a regular basis. So we could have chat forever about that, but it's something that we've prioritized from the very, very beginning and leaning more into it as there's more tools now, I would say, but it's always been something that's very important.
Yeah. Hardest thing to measure, easily the greatest impact on the brand. So like, what's your one super high level thing like brands should be doing around community right now?
Brands should be talking to their customers as much as their customers are willing to talk to them, over and over and over and over again. We do a post-purchase survey, for example, and we know for a fact that many customers come from our paid marketing, but they won't admit it. And it's really fun to see because although they might have clicked on one of our ads or exposed to it in their mind, it usually is a referral of someone, saying, "Oh, I saw this online." Someone says, "Oh, I have one. It's amazing. You should try it." That's the purchase. So that's probably one of the biggest things for sure is understand the power of it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. It's always really also interesting to see like in those communities when like things happen, how the community will be your CS team or be your sales team and like rally together.
But they'll also call you out, right? Like
it can also go the opposite way.
We've been shredded before and absolutely exposed in our community. And, I think sometimes your knee-jerk reaction is like, shut it down, like we can't have this. And we've battled and, being transparent. And you know what? You see it a lot in the crypto space where some of the best projects or some of the best devs are the ones who are the most transparent and the most vulnerable to everything, right? You see successful campaigns, whether it be a token or an NFT or whatever, they're always the most successful because the person running it, the dev, is basically naked the whole time, right? Here's the fail, here's the good, here's the bad. And the brands that I support, the brands that I love, is because I'm connected in a way with the people behind it. So failure and getting shredded sometimes hurts, but it's you can't just post good news all day long. Like it's not, your brand is not a highlight reel, and that's why I don't only post amazing things on LinkedIn. I post the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and whether you like it or not, it's the facts, and people who want to connect and feel attached to that, they do, and that's how we build a community.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it always concerns me when the customers don't have, like if they don't love you enough to hate you, that's when I get concerned because there isn't really a community there. So I call it waxing because it's very painful when it happens, but usually it's good afterwards, especially like learn and improve from it. Okay. Last question for you. If anybody wants to learn more about Aaron or Hush Blankets, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, my in terms of business, I post a lot of that stuff that I think about or I do on LinkedIn. So it's just Aaron Spivak on LinkedIn. Our websites, Canada is hush.ca, hushblankets.com in the US. So a lot of people listen to this stuff and subscribe to our newsletter because the way we do things is a lot different than your typical e-commerce brand shoving 50% off down your throat. We take things to a new level in terms of the way we communicate. And my Instagram, I just kind of post more day-to-day stuff, which is also just first name dot last name.
Very cool. Well, we really appreciate the time. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another week's episode of the Messenger Mastermind podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with another e-commerce marketer. And always let us know what you think down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. If you're looking for cutting-edge tactics and the resources that we rely on to run our businesses, sign up for our newsletter. We'll include a link down below. As always, stay confident, connect with your customers, and keep crushing it.